I'll be in order.
Back up.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silent reflection. On item C, meetings of note, 4 more board members may be in attendance at the following back to school convocation Tuesday, August 11th, 2026, Garden City High School Gymnasium at 8 a.m. Move to item D, approval agenda with the following amendments. D1, additional certified and classified personnel actions for consideration, item F3.
I move to approve the meeting agenda as amended.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve the meeting agenda as amended. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
My computer's acting weird. I'm just trying to figure out what it was doing.
Do you have any public comment, Jennifer? No. Okay. Move on to item F, the consent agenda.
Oh, wait.
Oh, wait,
We got a table.
I missed-
Let's do E1.
yeah, sorry, I missed
President.
Mr. President,
E1, right, yeah.
I move that we table the recognition of outgoing board president and vice president until next meeting.
I'll second.
So moved and seconded to table the recognition of the outgoing board president, vice president until the next meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion.
I'm sorry, that was a yes, I'm just like.
That's my fault. I was talking to Rebecca.
Motion carries.
Nice.
Motion carried. Okay, now item F, consent agenda.
President, I move to approve all consent agenda items as amended.
Been moved and seconded to approve all consent agenda items as amended. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your left hand. Opposed, right hand. Motion carried. Sorry.
Making sure we pay attention. right?
Yeah. And Jennifer too. Okay. We're on to item G, board report, staffing update. Drew Ton, Deputy Superintendent.
Well, just getting this ready, just so you all know, gonna do a staffing update this meeting, and then Drew's really gotten into the weeds with enrollment because he's had to transfer he's had to process all the transfer requests we've had. And so we'll kind of do an enrollment update for everybody at the next meeting in September. So, okay.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having us back. Some of you were here last time when Leanne was here. Some of you weren't. This is Leanne Tone. No relation, but a valuable member of our HR department. We've had a lot of success over the last couple of years. Most of it not due to me. Most of it is due to Leanne and everybody else in the office because they're the ones that really get most of the work done. So staffing update on this year. This is a update that we give every fall right before the start of the school year. We'll kind of go through our staffing update and then answer any questions that you guys might have. So just kind of a snapshot of where we were to where we are. I'm taking this part of it back to 24, 25. This is when Leanne and I came on board in the HR department. If you look here, teachers and specialists. In 2024, 2025, we had 548 hired certified teachers or specialists. So those were filled positions. not open positions, actual filled positions. Going into this school year, we're at 566.5 filled teacher and specialist positions. So we've been able to increase the number of certified teachers and specialists that we have in the district by 18.5 positions. Classified staff, we're going to go into this fall with 20 additional classified staff members hired. If you guys remember back in July, we brought kindergarten paras to you. That's the majority of those additional classified positions. And then over that time frame, we've actually reduced the number of administrators by 4. So we're down in administrators. We've made cuts in that position while increasing the number of people that actually have direct connection to the classroom. If you look at our total salaries over that time, this is total dollars spent. We've increased our salaries by over $3 million in those positions. Yep, you can. I'll go back.
Okay, is there a reason it's over 2 years, just comparing to last year?
Just because that's how long we've been in the position. You'll see it year over. We can show you year over year. We'll just send it to you. Over the same time period, increases to teachers and specialists. Over that same time period, we've increased 2.6 million, just over $1 million in classified staff salaries. And over that same time, we've actually reduced administrative costs by over $260,000 in administrative costs. So the reason I bring this to your attention, statewide, there's a lot of conversation, and nationwide, there's a lot of conversation that you see school districts increasing the amount of administrators that they have on staff, and while you're seeing a decrease in teachers. That's not the case for us, and it's purely because of hiring. We've been able to hire positions, teaching positions and classified positions. And as we've been able to do that, at the same time, we've been actually able to reduce the number of administrators that we have inside the district. One of the big new ones is kindergarten paras. We haven't had kindergarten paras in our school district in a long time. It's been a very, very big need for our district. One of the biggest struggles that we face every fall is the transition of those new students coming into kindergarten, whether they're coming in from Garfield Early Childhood Center, whether they're coming in from a private or parochial preschool, or whether they haven't been to school at all and all of a sudden they're coming to kindergarten. One of the toughest transitions that we see at the beginning of every year is those kiddos trying to transition to full day kindergarten. And as a way to address that, and Jessica will talk about the building's needs assessment later on, the thing that we invested in there was investing in kindergarten paras. What we did was we repurposed 6 para positions, and then we closed 5 teaching positions to capture the money to hire kindergarten paras. We thought it was that big a need to hire kindergarten paras that we were willing to close 5 unfilled teaching positions in order to do that. Go ahead, Leanne.
So as we've filled certified positions, it has a direct impact in our long-term sub numbers. So we started 2 years ago with 46 long-term subs. This year, we're going into the year with only 21. So hiring those, put those long-term subs back into the daily sub pool, or filling the shorter of the long-term, so maternities, surgeries, things like that. So those get covered a lot quicker, a lot easier. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about the impact on plan time. But yeah, we have 25 less long-term subs now. And 6 of our long-term subs are in school working on their teaching degrees. That's a push. We give everyone resources and information, all of our long-term subs. We connect them with colleges to hopefully one day get them into teaching programs so that they'll be certified down the road.
We have a number of our long-term subs are highly effective and are very good teachers. So we have to balance, whether we replace a very effective long-term sub. I think of Josh Harbor at the high school. Josh Harbor has been with us as a long-term sub for the better part of a decade. He is a very, very good long-term sub. He's a very excellent teacher. For us, we would rather keep Josh Harbor on as a long-term sub than go out and try to find somebody to replace him that's probably not going to do as well at the job. The other thing I'll point out, and I talked to you guys last year, if you take a snapshot all the way back to COVID, we were actually at 73 long-term subs inside the district.
So, like I said, this helps with planning time as well. One thing that we run into when our sub pool is really limited is that teachers have to cover during their plan times. So because we have more than 100 daily subs right now, and so many of those 25 long-term subs went back in the daily sub pool, that helps teachers out day to day so that they don't have to spend their plan time covering as well. We also have a huge number in process. We have a lot of recent applicants and people that are just waiting on their license from the state or finishing up some of their onboarding paperwork. So we'll have even more going into the year.
We are seeing quite a dramatic increase in the number of people applying for sub positions. What it tells us is the economy in Garden City is starting to tighten up and people are looking for work. That's not great community-wide, but it is good for us as far as hiring positions like daily subs. There's just a snapshot of the retention piece. We get asked often, what is the retention rate in Garden City Public Schools? Last year, we had 47 certified staff members leave the district. So if you remember back, we're over 560 staff members. We had 47 leave. Anything below 10% is great in education, and that's well below 10%. Of those, one thing that is interesting is we only had 6 that left because of retirement. What we're seeing in Garden City Public Schools that a lot of other school districts are going through now that we saw a few years back is we've kind of gone through our baby boom retirement. We have a fairly young staff. When you look at our median age on paper, we have a fairly young staff because most of our baby boomers have already retired. In a lot of other districts, they're going through that right now. And so they're having a lot of turnover in retirement that we are not having right now because we've gone through it already. Go ahead.
So we have worked really diligently to fill our classified positions. We're excited that we're starting this school year with no openings in nutrition, clerical, or bus drivers. That's huge for our students that we don't have to fill those other places. We have a lot of custodial staff that are in the process of getting onboarded. Those aren't necessarily as important to start on the day that school starts, not as important as some of the other ones. We do still have some para positions that we're working to fill throughout the district. And the one thing that we have the absolute hardest time filling is crossing guards. It is a kind of a funky schedule that they work. They work a little bit in the morning and a little bit in the afternoon. So that is actually the one position that we have the least amount of applicants. We find the least amount of candidates. So if you know somebody that is looking to
In the mornings and then in the
a couple
afternoons.
hours a day.
Crossing guard is truly a struggle. It's a position that we work with the city on and the police department on with the training and all that stuff. It's a very difficult position to fill, but we have to have more crossing guards in Garden City. We have to find a way to capture more crossing guards. We're trying to convince some of our paras, hey, go be a crossing guard before and after school. It'll elongate their pay isn't great. How can we find a way to make you more money? Trying to get them to be crossing guards. We're heading up, down at the Senior Citizen Center. We have to find a way to get more crossing guards just because the safety of those kids crossing some of our major streets is a little bit scary at times, especially, as you could drive up and down campus, that can be a scary place to cross with some of those kids.
And it's a hard job. It's all
It is.
weathers and
Yeah,
temperatures and
We buy them nice new coats and gloves and heated gloves and all that stuff, trying to entice them to be a crossing guard. So recruiting, one thing that we did change we recruit different than we used to recruit. And I've talked to you guys individually, I think, about this. We used to go all over the nation. We used to go to New York. We used to go to Alabama. We'd go to Michigan. I mean, we would go nationwide trying to recruit teachers. Two things have shifted, and that's really why we've changed our idea on recruiting. Number one, we were doing that when the economy, when the economy was bad in New York or when the economy was bad in Michigan, we would go and recruit those places because they were cutting teaching positions. The problem with that now is that it's not a really good strategy now because everybody needs teachers. It's not just us in Kansas that needs teachers. They need them in Michigan. They need them in New York more than they used to actually need them. And then number two is the retention of those teachers, trying to keep them inside of our community. Teachers, they're an expensive group to onboard and get into your pipeline. And so trying to find people that want to stay in the High Plains area, in the Great Plains, people that are from there, people that know what winter is like here, people that understand Garden City's a long ways from everywhere. We need people like that actually want to come to Garden City, stay in Garden City, and put roots in Garden City. So we've changed the way we recruit. Right now, the only places, and our budget is significantly less because we only stay in Kansas, the surrounding states. If the state touches us, we're going to hit a recruiting fair in those states, in the state of Texas. Those are the only places we go. And in the state of Texas, the only place we go is El Paso, is down to Utah. We have a strong connection with UTEP. They have a great teaching program and they produce a lot of teachers. So we feel it's valuable and worth our times to still go down to UTEP. But outside of that, we're staying in Kansas. One positive thing that we are seeing, education is coming back. It's making a comeback in colleges. When I took over, Kansas State was graduating in the range of 180 to 200 kids a year. They've drastically improved that. They're well over 300 at this point. They think they're going to have a class of 800 coming through. Back when I was in college, our class was about 1,200 teachers coming out of K-State. K-State has traditionally not been the largest teaching program. They are now the largest teaching program. Emporia has traditionally been the largest teaching program. Kind of the most premier teaching program in Kansas has been at Emporia State. Emporia's just kind of been shrinking. Their population has been shrinking, the economy around Emporia, and I think that's having an effect on their teacher program. So the other group that we work a lot with is Newman University. A lot of our stay-at-home kids go through Newman University. They'll go through the Garden City Community College Boost program and then go straight into Newman. And Jessica with Newman works great with us. We work kind of hand in hand with her to help kids get through. A lot of our apprentice kids that we're taking from the high school and transitioning through those programs are going through that Newman University. So how does the year look to start? One positive thing that we have, one of our biggest accomplishments, we're going to start this year with only 2 unfilled positions. We're only going to have 2 unfilled positions on the book. We have a school psychologist position that we're not going to fill, and we have a speech path position that we're not going to fill. Generally, at the start of school years, we have a bunch of unfilled positions that we just put on hold and hope to fill the next year. This year, we have 2, and we had 20 when we started a couple of years back. So that stability in staff, being fully staffed, being stable in our staffing, we can finally start moving forward and really focusing on quality staff, improving the quality of staff, and improving the quality of the education that our students get. So our focus, one thing that I remind our folks in the office of, and we talk about quite a bit as a leadership team, our focus is 2 kids like that, the beginning and the end. How do we put staff in front of our kids that give those kids up there the greatest opportunity to be successful, to leave, go to college, stay in the community if they want to, have a business, grow the economy? How do we allow these kids to be successful? And that's by putting high quality staff in front of those kids every single day. And And that's our goal, 1% better every day for the community, for the school district, for the kids, and for our staff. So that's where we're at. I'm sure you have questions. Love to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Yeah, I think that's pretty impressive. Going from 20 on field to 2, I think that's pretty impressive. Good job.
It's been a good run, and it will continue to get better. We're not, I mean, my people are really good at their jobs. I'm not going to claim that it's all us. We're fortunate. I mean, we are starting to see nationwide a turnaround in education. You're starting to see staffing improve. You're starting to see the college educations start to grow back. Now they're not near, in the late 90s and early 2000s, when we were interviewing people for jobs. I think I interviewed against 13 other social studies candidates at the time. We're not to that point, but we are. This year, we've been able to be a lot more picky in who we actually hire. In years past, I wouldn't necessarily say that was necessarily the case, but it's fun to get to tell people no sometimes.
What is the program that we had to grow our own or?
Yeah, so we have a couple different ones. Leanne runs our LIFT program. So we have a LIFT program that we're taking high school kids and we're trying to migrate those high school kids through the CTE education pathway. And as they go through that CTE education pathway, we can get them into Garden City Community College education associate degree program, and then transition them into a college program, and then keep them at home. They don't necessarily have to stay at home after Garden City, but we have the Newman option. K-State, we now work with K-State on an online option. Wichita State, almost everybody has some sort of online option for that education program. The thing that we would say is we want them to be out in the field. And then I'll let Lan, you want to kind of talk to them about our apprentice program?
So we have 9 apprentices right now. They are all in various stages of their teaching program. So some of them are just barely getting started. Some of them will graduate after this year and will be certified teachers next school year. And they're training right under a mentor teacher. Some of our best teachers are training them. And it's kind of like an expanded student teaching program. So rather than a semester, they're working with a mentor teacher for, however many years they're in the program, up to 4 years. And they're getting immediate feedback as they're slowly taking over the class. And they're getting really good hands-on experience. I think every teacher in the district would probably say that they would have loved to have had that much time with somebody right beside them, supporting them.
So just a little history so Garden City Public Schools, at one point we had 73 long-term subs. One of the things that the state did, because we weren't the only ones in that boat, one of the things the state did was basically create this, they called it a parent to teach pathway. It's a non-traditional pathway to become a teacher. In theory, it was a great idea at the time because we had to fill these teaching positions. Like we had to get a body into the classroom. The problem was what we were doing was we were going and we were taking somebody with 0 classroom experience and going and putting them into a classroom and saying, here's your 3rd grade classroom or your high school science classroom. Good luck. Hope all goes well. We abandoned that model quickly and have gone to this apprentice model. What we do is we understand, hey, we may have a long-term sub in a classroom. That's not our permanent fix. We want to get these apprentices, get them under somebody good, and not pull them and put them under their own classroom until they're actually ready. So they'll sit there for 4 years or 3 years, however long it takes them to get through a program. And they're there every single day with that highly qualified instructional teacher, learning how to actually teach, as opposed to just, we could go and give them a long-term sub license, throw them in a classroom and wish them good luck, but we know that doesn't turn out.
And that's really encouraging because I think we're talking folks that have roots in this community.
It is.
So
Yeah.
they're not going to, for the most part, probably not going to get their certification and then leave.
Yes. So Josh and I were talking, we've talked long about this. One of the biggest things that we've seen is the retention piece. We've been able to increase our retention of teachers, which is huge. It's a lot cheaper to retain than replace. So as we continue to work on ways to retain teachers, one of the biggest things is finding people that want to be in Garden City. You know, and as we find more and grow our own and keep those folks in our pipeline, number one, it's a lot cheaper. And number two, we know we have high quality instructors that are gonna be generational, not just a couple of years.
And I also connect a lot of our paras usually are sent to us by a principal or somebody who, you know, they see something in them. They talk to them about going back to school or going into school, and they'll come see me and I'll try to connect them with whatever resources we have, whether it's just, you know, connecting them to the college here, or if, I think we hired 4 teachers this year that already had bachelor's degrees that are doing some kind of transition program where they'll ultimately have a master's in teaching after a year or two, depending on the program that they're in. And they're in certified teaching positions this year too, but they started as paras. And those principals identified those people and said, you'd be a really great teacher. And so we helped them get into those programs.
Good job. You know, I've been on the board almost 3 years, and this is the most encouraging staffing update we've had
Yeah.
since I've been.
It was scary coming to the first couple of years. What are we gonna talk about?
Yeah.
But it has been good. You know, things are going well. We're getting, you know, we're hiring higher quality people, you know. It's getting better. We're not perfect. We're not gonna claim that we're perfect at hiring, but it's getting better. The pool is getting better, and as the pool gets better, we'll continue to get better. I mean, that's
In total, how many teacher positions do we have?
just over 500. Yeah, just over probably mid 520s, and then we've got of the 588 or whatever. The rest of those are school psychs, OTs, PTs, SLPs, behavior specialists, social workers, school nurses. You know, you kind of have to gamut of the rest of them. Yeah. So 21 at the elementary level, one thing that's easy to remember, we have 21 sections of every grade. So 21 kinders, 21 first, 21 seconds, thirds, fourths. And then you get to the intermediate, things get.
I think it's great you're adding Paris to kindergarten classes.
Yeah,
Teachers need help, kids trying to figure out how to interact with other kids never met. I think that's great.
yeah, naps. I mean, it's kindergarten. I'm a secondary person. This kindergarten thing's a whole thing. It's a whole deal. Not what I expected, so.
Had to educate Drew on a few.
All right, if you have questions, reach out. We'd love to answer any questions. Again, thank you guys. I mean, a lot of it is the board members. You guys do help. Like, I don't think any of us probably tell you guys enough. A stable board makes a huge difference in hiring staff. So we definitely appreciate you guys and appreciate all you guys do for us. So thank you.
Competitive salaries. help us a lot,
Yeah.
too.
Retention.
Getting us to the $50,000 threshold this year is big.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
When I was talking to, the umpire the other day, he had spent a couple of weeks in New Mexico in one of the towns that there's a Pecos League team. The starting wage at the school there is 22,000.
Yeah.
What?
22,000. In some little town in New Mexico. I was like, oh,
Yeah, I
we're
started.
doing really good. Those New Mexico people are terrific.
I was gonna say, my first contract was 27,000 and I'm old, so.
That was 23.5 30 years ago.
It is between the work and we talk a lot about this, but you know, when Randy got on, one of Randy's he beat the drum about the $50,000 base. We got to get to the $50,000 base and just beat it. And he wanted to be on negotiations because he wanted that to happen. The other thing, you know, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was John and Andy and maybe Nathan, you guys, that PTO, you know, you guys pushed us to take that to the negotiation table and get PTO. And it took us a while to get it through, but PTO has been a huge benefit for us being able to sell ourselves and just our staff and the morale of our staff and the retention of our staff. It's been a big deal.
Yeah, that's those things are really appealing but it also keeps people
Yeah.
around, which makes our job easier because we have
Yeah.
less people we have to hire. So.
Grow Well is another great example, you know, by the time you talk about Grow Well and the benefits of that, Jessica's done a great job of keeping, you know, our insurance is in really, really good shape. So our people, you know, can go to the doctor for free. Their insurance is very reasonable compared to most districts across the state because she's done a great job with that. You guys pushing for PTO, that was huge. And now the $50,000 pay base, those are all huge accomplishments. So, and mostly, you know, a lot to do with you guys. So thank you guys. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item G2, the FY 2026-27 budget presentation and building needs assessment. Jessica Northern, Chief Financial Officer.
Okay. For some of you new ones, the motion that you guys will make when you approve the budget, you have to have inside that motion that you took into consideration the building needs assessment and our state assessment score. So the first thing I'm going to talk to is the building needs assessment. So there are 18 building reports that a committee reviews and summarizes to determine the fiscal year 27 budget priorities. Oh, I need the clicker. Did you steal the clicker, Drew?
Right there,
I
Jess.
think you use it.
Isn't that it on the table right behind you, Jess? No?
Okay, so the committee we had this year, along with Steve and Heather and Jenny, Ryan Ming and David Deloach, we all met. Josh sat in on that. And what we did is we took all 18 of those reports from the buildings and we summarized to come up with 5 top priorities. So, and then later I'll give you those top 5 priorities and then I'm going to tie them back to this CAP data. So the Kansas Assessment Program results revealed persistent district-wide achievement gaps needing budget investments. So this is the CAP data I got from the instruction office that we chose to focus in on when I decided to build the budget and determine where funds were needed. So math tiers, levels 1 and 2, 66% of grade 3 and 83% of grade 10 students fall into those 1 and 2 tiers. In ELA, up to 37% of early grade students fall into the 1 and 2 tiers. So feeling like stabilizing our para workforce is vital for the intense small group interventions needed to shift these large percentages of students into proficiency. The next category, we talked about SEL interventions. So ELA performance values drop uniformly across reading categories by grade 10, and math proficiency drop the scores balloon into lower level tiers, dropping from 34% proficiency in grade 3 to just 17% by grade 10. So again, academic stamina and learning degrade over time if behaviors go unmanaged. So SEL interventions are required to rebuild student regulation and testing stamina. District gaps, math scales, scores lag behind state averages by at least 3 points. Specific deficits or diagnostics show acute weaknesses in whole number operations, fraction math, and science modeling practices. So the committee or the consensus of all the buildings was that certified literacy and math interventionists may help execute precision and tier 2 to 3 targeting where core instruction lags. CAP scores also note high instructional fragmentation, showing strengths in geometry, but gaps in everyday calculation. Student performance is highly uneven between early elementary and middle school grades. Because student needs are inconsistent across standards, teachers must have paid time off to really evaluate data and differentiate lessons. So a lot of the buildings felt like they didn't have the time outside of their workday or compensation to do a lot of the analysis needed to focus in on those things. And then the last column just has that our ELA scores fell behind state averages in every single reported grade 3rd to 10th. Margins are at their worst in grades 4 to 8 and grade 10. So committee thought that language-driven drops match up precisely with the increased text complexity. Shifting ESL certified staff into tier 1 co-teaching teaching models may help that. So now I'm going to tie all of these gaps into one of the 5 identified budget priorities. So those 5 priorities are staffing and retention, behavior and SEL supports, academic intervention, professional development, ESL and family outreach. We feel like all of these are limiting our student achievement and district efficiency. So as I started the fiscal year 27 budget, I focused on aligning financial resources with the operational barriers our buildings are facing. These priorities reflect both the instructional needs and fiscal responsibilities. So priority 1, para and classified pay. We feel like turnover is a hidden fiscal drain, and competitive wages is a cost avoidance strategy just as much as it is a staffing strategy. So you can see those requested actions on the classified staff raises. Over 7.5% in raises have been given to classified staff in the last 2 years. We've added 3 additional PD days for paraprofessionals since fiscal year 23. This year negotiations, we increased the top 2 SPED supplemental tiers, gave them more money for the higher need classrooms. And then, like Drew had mentioned, we funded kindergarten paraprofessionals. So we added 21 of those positions for all those classes that have over 16 kindergartners. So you can see the barriers. You know, private sector can pay a lot higher wages than public funds can afford to. Replacement costs, including lost productivity and training. So linking it back to the CAP data, they feel like stabilizing the para workforce is vital for small group interventions needed to shift the 66 to 83% of students currently in tiers 1 and 2 towards proficiency. So priority 2 was behavior and SEL interventions. The rising behavioral needs are eroding instructional time district-wide. Structured SEL systems and trained personnel restore classroom conditions for learning. So again, we've added 8 social workers since in fiscal year 24. That's another thing. And then along with that is the SEL curriculums that we use, Leader in Me, Capturing Kids' Hearts, Character Strong, and all of those. We also have created SLAC, which is a committee created to kind of analyze behaviors in the classroom and give guidance on that. And then we also opened up a behavior classroom at AP last year. We continue to partner with Compass and Compass and the mental health liaison that we have here. And that is grant funded for the most part. So linking this back, we feel like the math proficiency drops from 34% to 17% from 3rd to 10th grade, and the SEL interventions can rebuild this priority. So priority 3, academic intervention and curriculum alignment. Without certified interventionists and aligned tools, the MTSS model cannot function as intended. So the tier 2 and 3 students lack the targeted support needed to close those gaps. So they asked for us to look at the literacy and math interventionist, ASL digital intervention tools, and then those others like 180, the Math Catalyst is for Eureka Math, and HMH. We made sure that when we bought that ELA curriculum that it had those supporting document or supporting programs within it when we purchased it. And then they just felt like the MTSS model is not fully supported. So by doing this, they feel like the MTS implementation will be stronger. There can be more targeted student growth through precision academic support and increased consistency across buildings with more aligned tools. Linking it back to the CAP data, they just feel like the 66 to 83% of students in the 1 and 2 tiers below math proficiency, like this could really help them out. Priority 4, professional development and collaboration time. Staff are implementing new curriculum every year, differentiating for multilingual learners and managing behavioral needs. Without structured time and training, quality and alignment decline. So through things like paid training outside contract hours, paid summertime, a secondary math consultant, PD for those new programs, they just felt like there would be higher instructional quality across all classrooms, stronger alignment, and improved teacher retention. So the high instructional fragmentation and uneven performance across grade bands really felt like paying teachers outside of contract time could really get those more aligned. And the last priority was the co-teaching and family outreach. With so many different languages represented in our district, embedding ESL certified staff in tier 1 classrooms and strengthening family communication could really dramatically improve achievement data. So they wanted us to look at tier 1 co-teaching for ESL classrooms, expand our translation services. Currently, we have 3 translators here at the ESC. And we have a lot more languages, and we have to use a program called Propio just because we can't hire a translator for every single language we've got. They just feel like linking it back to the cap, that the ELA scores that fall below the state averages could really benefit from things like this co-teaching model. So all in all, just looking to be fiscally responsible for long-term district sustainability. Together, felt like with these 5 investments form a coherent system, and each one actually strengthens another and addresses the data identified gap in student achievement. And so each priority reduces downstream costs, making this fiscally responsible strategy for long-term sustainability. And these priorities reflect the voices of building leaders, and then again are grounded back into the CAP data. So all these priorities were taken into consideration as I built the budget. Some are monetary, some are new money, some are just reallocating money. But the intent is to provide the financial support that the district leaders feel like they need for their buildings. So that is the building needs assessment from the committee. A lot of information. I tried not to read it all to you, but are there any questions on that?
Yes. So I know shortly after COVID, we saw, at least at Horace Good, we started using IXL to kind of make up for some lost learning. There it is. Are we doing that in all of the buildings? No? Okay.
The state's cut funding for IXL. And so if a building chooses to use IXL, they have to pay for it basically out of their budget. So some are, some aren't.
Okay.
And then also, how does that fit into using the new HMH for your language arts? So there are some buildings, you mentioned KH, I know they've used IXL quite a bit. Yeah.
Sorry.
But they've used,
Okay.
KH has used it, I think BM was using it. So there are places that have chosen to purchase it out of their building budgets. It was coming for the math was coming free from the state. And they've cut the funding for it.
Oh, okay. So is the plan then to do IXL like district wide or still have, okay. That was my main question because I was like, wait, I remember this stuff. So, okay.
I have more just of a comment than a question. We're looking at this presentation, and it's all very subjective information that you have to turn into a very finite number scheme. So I appreciate the work that it takes to try to get these intangible things that are floating around down to something tangible via a financial funnel. Like, it's not an easy job. Thanks. And I appreciate the time you guys took to try to show us why you're doing what you're doing with the funds that you request.
I have 2. The first one's pretty granular, not a huge one, but the parent liaisons, I mean, that would be a new position. What does that look like, and how many, and what sort of staff is that?
So we currently have some parent liaisons, but mainly for out of Monica's office. And they do a lot of outreach for like our migrant, like looking for migrant families and things like that. I think more so on the building needs assessment that I don't know if they were like wanting more or if they were wanting to expand that to where they're going out and looking for more than just migrant students.
Second, maybe this ties in on new interventionists. I mean, how many are we looking to hire and what sort of, I mean, I know you guys kind of.
Yeah, so we- and-
What does it look like?
And so Drew's kind of set up a formula that we did this year to bring them back. We're not gonna be able to bring back the numbers that we had before we lost them in a year for 2 reasons. 1, finances are gonna be an issue. And 2, being able to find all those people is gonna be gonna be a chore too, so.
Yeah, so we did we've kind of done a slow roll on it and we're comfortable now. Over the last couple of years, we've incrementally added back intervention positions, reading intervention positions kind of as we've been able to. Last year, before when we were adding all these intervention positions, we didn't have a structure to why we added and where we added. We kind of looked and said, okay, this building has the most at-risk funding. This is where we're going to put interventionists. Let's add interventionists. All of our elementary buildings outside of,
No, all of them now.
all of them are now Title I buildings. And so what we've done is we basically structured interventionists inside the buildings based on the number of tracks that we have. So a one-track building, our 4 one-track buildings have a halftime interventionist. The other halftime is instructional coach. So that person is in the building the whole time. They understand the instruction piece. They understand the reading intervention piece of it. And then our 2-track buildings, they have a full-time interventionist and a full-time instructional coach. And then our 3-track buildings, the 4 3-track buildings, have 1.5 interventionists and an instructional coach. So we've been able to kind of pull it back one by one, and we're to a place now where we feel like we finally have some support back. The one thing that I would caution, and we've talked to our administrators, the interventionist, and the instructional coaches, we can't go back and use the same intervention strategies that we were using before because our test scores have actually increased since we've removed interventions. So it's not the type of interventions that we need to be providing, need to be really honed in on those level 1 and level 2 students and not just.
And on their specific needs based on their data. And so that's where I think the letters training that we've done for the last few years, the work that we're going to do with Fellows Fundamental Learning Center, those things are going to help a lot.
And eventually we had to have reading specialists inside the buildings. And so these interventionists, if they're not reading specialists, will have to go back and become reading specialists to be the reading specialist interventionist in the building with that new student.
And some of the funding from these interventionists is when we couldn't fully fund certified staff is we added intervention paras. And so we did away with that. All of those are closed either for kindergarten paras or in order to get a certified staff member back as an interventionist.
And a good intervention model, I mean, the nice thing about a good intervention model is you have small group with tier 1 and tier 2 students, but then on the other end of it, our level 3 and 4 students are getting more individualized support at the upper end. So it's not just a low end intervention. It allows the upper kids to also have opportunities for that increased support in the MTSS model.
Josh mentioned work with Phillips Fundamental Learning Center. They're going to be back next week to work with all of our interventionists here to train them in the dyslexia protocols. So we're hoping that can really pay
And one of
off.
the other positions that I've worked with Drew about, and we've kind of got the position, we just were a little late to the game. I want to have a reading interventionist specialist person that's going to basically, they would work out of this building, but supporting the interventionists and supporting the teachers on what they can do to amp up their tier 1 instruction for all of our kids. But what are we doing to support our struggling readers and making sure that we're following things with fidelity and doing the things that we need to do. So they're going to be providing a lot of that PD and that tech support that we're going to need.
One thing that really, when we were compiling all the 18 buildings that really like stood out to me is how much not only the administrators, but the certified staff in the buildings value the paras and how much like they look out for them and see the value in keeping them happy and fairly compensated. So, and the kindergarten para thing went over really well.
How many of our teachers are gonna be certified or whatever you call it for work with kids with dyslexia with Phillips?
I don't know that
We've had them
number.
out 3 times this summer.
Yeah, we've
to
had
work with
quite a
groups
few
of
folks go
teachers. We've
through.
had great response.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we had It's a 2-day training that we did in the first program. It's called Sound Case. And so we did 2-day trainings back to back. And we had teachers from the first group contacting other teachers that weren't signed up and telling them they need to be back in the second group because they felt like it was that good and that beneficial. So we'll have quite a few folks at the elementary level that'll be trained at the pre-K and the elementary level. My hope is that if we double down on early intervention and hit these kids when they're young and get them those skills, then they're going to be set up for the future moving forward.
How much does it cost us per para to recruit and train them?
Train.
It's pretty, I mean, relatively speaking, one thing that, and Jessica talked about it was the investment in extra professional development days. Really for us, that's where we're gonna see the biggest benefit. Our early childhood paras are very well trained. One of the reasons they're very well trained is because they have more time in their schedule than a elementary para or a secondary para to get professional development. One of the things that we've lacked is time built in the schedule to actually train up paras, to teach paras, you know, the processes and procedures and teach them, hey, this is how I can support letters. This is how I can support the reading specialist, those sorts of things. So adding in those 3 days of professional development is, for us, going to pay huge dividends in continuing to do the professional development with paras.
And that's pretty expensive.
I couldn't put a dollar amount on it, but I want to say it's,
What was it per day, Jess? We did.
For, like, to add for paras,
Yeah. It was,
it's probably around 35,000 for 175 paras for 8 hours per day.
so close to 100,000 in just professional development that we've done.
Turnover rate, there's
20.
that's just lost money.
Yeah, you're right. I agree. The biggest issue that we have every year is the turnover rate in paras, and the big reason why is summer.
Mhm.
Summer is a killer. We get them in, we get them trained up, and then summer hits, and they go and find another job in the community to fill the gap in the summer. And the problem that we end up running into is oftentimes they're pretty good employees and they want to keep them around. And it's mainly our young ones that.
And they can make more money doing something else.
Our young
oftentimes
ones
than
that
they
leave
can.
us because our older ones are, you know, just because of the way salaries are structured, they're paid better and they're more invested into the Capers system. Whereas our young ones, you know, it's a little easier for them to get out with Capers 3 not being worth a darn. It's easy for them to get out of it and not feel like they have an attachment to that retirement system.
Some verbiage that we did add to the classified handbook this year is that if an employee doesn't make it through their 30-day probationary period or 60-day probationary period, they have to reimburse the district the cost of their background checks and their fingerprinting and all of that. Because we were coming across where we pay it and they'd come work a day and then, so we did add that for all classified staff. So again, I know that's like not really my expertise, but I think, was it 2 years ago that the legislators changed that to where the formal board motion for the budget has to have that you guys heard a building needs assessment, looked at state assessment scores. So there you go. I think.
You want me to flip this one too?
This one I'm definitely more comfortable with, so I can walk and talk on this one.
So it's gonna be,
Yep. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so this year started the budget preview or budget process. Met with the budget committee of Rebecca and Mark and Jacob. They got to listen to me for 2 hours last week. I kind of started with them on the process of closing out a year, opening up a year, and we went more into the weeds than what we're gonna do here. But really the purpose of of tonight is to give you a preview and really zone in on specifically the Code 99 data and what that means for taxpayers before you guys take action on it at the budget hearing the end of this month. So I feel like every dollar should connect to a student need, a staff need, operational or statutory need, really trying to tie it into our strategic plan as well, keeping students first, keeping our people in mind, and also being fiscally responsible. So I feel like my priorities should be clear. The budget authority must be lawful, and the public should know what the impact is. So when building the budget, some of the things, how I evaluate spending is really like three simple questions. Is it a wise use of district funds? Does it align back with our priorities, our strategic plan? Is it legal authority? Do I have the legal authority to spend it? And then is it sustainable long-term? And then are students benefiting, of course? Is it connecting resources back to achievement and services for our students, keeping them safe, supportive, and giving them opportunities? And then lastly, again, looking at the millage impact and the value that is actually provided to the community on what it means for taxpayers. So kind of the budget outlook of what's changed, the good, the bad, and the big is kind of what I said. Positive factors are that our general fund base is increasing $163 and going up to $5,778. So that's the minimum amount that we'll get for any student in our district. On average, we usually generate more like $8,500 per student. With the $163 increase, that equates to about $1.68 million off of our weighted FTE. So our weighted FTE was over 10,000 once you added in our students and then all the transportation, bilingual, all those weightings. So about just under a $1.7 million increase on the base state aid increase alone. Strong investment earnings. We ended the year just under $2 million in investment earnings. Currently have more than I ended the year with invested. I've got all of our idle funds invested, staggered out so that I can pull that out anytime that a big expense or a big repair bill comes in. And all of those are about 4.1% is what they're currently invested at. We have some growth opportunities in ESOL and CTE funding. Last year, our CTE funding didn't increase, but we really think that it will for fiscal year 26 to 27. Our facilitator has almost doubled the courses that will qualify. And last year was her first year, and it was spent a lot of cleaning up different programs and finding out which pathways work with the student needs and the student desires. Our ESOL funding did go up over 204,000 from last year, and we expect that to go up again just because we are continuing to offer those classes to employees free. Participation has declined, but we had a full group in last spring, and then we have some more now. So we do expect that to grow as well. Our reserve balances are healthy, and it makes planning for stability a lot easier. And then some grant resources. McVie is, we ended last year, what did we receive? 45,000 with McVie funding, and this year we're gonna get 195,000. So we are hiring 2 new parent educators for that program. And then we also plan to slowly decrease parents as teacher funding so that we don't have that match because McVie funding has 0 district match. Safe and Secure Schools grant. They did not have it in fiscal year 26. They brought it back. I applied for $500,000 and we got 45,977,000. So we're gonna do some big things with that. Not quite what I had planned. So we're not gonna get a secured interest with that, but we'll get some cameras and things like that. Our after school program, we added an elementary school. So the 21st Century grants, you can only service the students in those buildings. So we had 5 buildings up until this year, and we added on A. Hubert with Gertrude Walker and received 125,000 to service those 2 schools. So that's increased money and also increasing services to another building in our district. Budget pressures. Obviously, we talk about enrollment decline all the time. So the only good thing about declining enrollment is it's easier to plan your budget because you can choose whether to use current year enrollment, fiscal year 27, or fiscal year, the year prior. Well, I know we're gonna go down, so it makes it easier to plan. But so I know we're gonna be using fiscal year 26 numbers, and from 25 to 26, we dropped 202.5 weighted FTE and 139 head count. So I think the actual decline from 26 to 27 is much, much less, but for funding purposes, you have to look at the year prior. Special education funding is projected to be $28,250 per teacher. That's down $1,200, so that's a big hit as well. And that's about $204,000 less just on teacher and para funds being generated. Increased operating costs along with fuel, food, utilities. Our trash increased dramatically this year. I guess the city, we reached out to CY and the city did a study and they told us they had been undercharging us. So now they're just charging us correctly. And then obviously like postage, we've really hammered down on buildings to mail the things you have to mail. We were spending over $45,000 in postage. And so we're really, really trying to narrow that down as postage increases. So large expenditures this year, the curriculum up is science, art, and music, all K-12 curriculums. Our property and casualty and work comp insurance came in at 1.47 million. Our property and casualty actually decreased, I think like 0.4%, but our work comp actually went up quite a bit. So netted out is a $1.47 million expenditure that's already been paid. Salary and benefits, that equates to almost $70 million of our entire budget. So 78% of our operating expenses are for salaries and benefits to our employees. And then ESCO, the ESCO project for the 5 buildings that did the HVAC renovations and the bond and interest payments is a little over 9 million this year. And then Brandon and I's long range facilities plan will projected to spend anywhere between 6-7 million out of that plan this year. So where does the money come from? Did a little pie chart to show you how much is state funded, federal, local, and then other. So the state funding is over 91 million, federal is 10 million. That's dramatically increasing, especially since ESSERS. But overall, it tends to dip every year just a little bit with title money. And then our local taxes, 17 million. So that 17 million is how much the county treasurer actually sent us last year. It does not include general fund of 9 million because those 20 million, the 20 mills in general fund go directly to the state, and then the state uses it as state aid, but it's actually local dollars. And then others, that's going to be things like grants, and it's also going to be, I did an other because it's also like employee and employer fringe premiums for health insurance. So when in the budget document, that's revenue into that fund, but I thought it was like a little misleading. So I just kind of put that under other. So some cost management and efficiency things that I looked on, and it's just not always about how much new money we're getting, but also how can we be more efficient and save money. So I kind of touched on these the last time I was in front of you guys, but we refinanced the bonds. There's still $12.5 million in bonds that are callable. So I'll just continue to watch that and see if that's something worth pursuing. At the time we did the other, it was not. So it may or may not come up again. We did some stipend and supplemental changes through negotiations. We got rid of some of the stipends and supplementals that either staff weren't utilizing effectively, or they just simply weren't needed anymore. We did also increase some, but the net was still savings on those changes. Technology efficiencies, I think I mentioned last time that Casey has done a really good job of going through all the programs, all the contracts for tech, and really like narrowing down, like, what do we need? What do we have to have? And eliminating some of the duplication that was in there. Position reductions, you saw some of those numbers from Drew. So this, from last year to this year, we reduced 8 certified staff members and 1 administrative position. And then I look at positions differently than Drew does. So Drew presented things like on filled positions. I have to look at it as budgeted positions. So like I have to have money in case he ends up filling the crossing guards and things like that. So we look at it a little bit differently, but I went back a little bit further. I went back to fiscal year 22. So from fiscal year 22 to 27, transportation routes have decreased 6. So we've lost, or not lost, we absorbed 6 route positions for transportation. Otherwise, classified stayed pretty flat. We decreased, maybe we decreased some other, I know we decreased like nutrition positions, but with the growing SPED population that our district sees, I feel like a lot of those were just put right back into SPED pairs, that students that needed one-on-one or our higher classrooms that needed more help. So overall, classified was pretty flat from 22 to 27. Administration is down 9, and that even includes an increase of 4 admin intern positions that we still have. And then in the last 2 years, certified staff, we've decreased 17 and a half. And in that same time frame of 22 to 27, we're down 25. So along those lines, department restructuring, Casey with technology and Jill with nutrition have really zoned in on their departments and have been able to, Casey wants to go to a more centralized SysOp model. And then I think a lot of restructuring will happen once we get through reconfiguration and things kind of even out. It'll be easier to staff those 1 and 2 track buildings. Okay, so then this is where what I just, the presentation before, this is where it ties into the actual budget. So listening to what our buildings told me, and building the feedback helps connect the budget decisions to student staff needs. So again, looking at staff retention, the behavior and SEL, academic intervention, PD, and then the ESL and family engagement. So just working towards better pay for retention, less disruption in the classroom, and looking at money, putting money into interventionists and achievement support, different achievement supports like the kindergarten paras, and then continuing to provide funding for the SEL supports like the Leader in Me and the Capturing Kids' Hearts, Character Strong and those things. And then ESL supports and increase student to increase student success. So all these priorities in the back of my mind as I'm allocating funds into the different accounts for this year. So starting with the workforce stability piece of it, again, prioritizing salary and benefits to remain competitive enough to recruit and to retain the high quality staff that our students deserve. We've talked about the salary increases, just under 8% in the last 2 years between the 2 years. And then something that a lot of other districts are not seeing, I just met with our insurance brokers last week, and they were honestly just blindsided by the balance in our health reserve fund and the fact that we were going to be able to hold employee premiums flat for the 2nd year in a row. They're just like, that's just completely unheard of. Our fund, our health reserve fund did increase this year, and that is, I did not put any additional funding into that. So years prior, I've sometimes split some interest money into there to get that built up, and we're sitting with, I think they said like almost 5 months worth of claims in that fund. So I think it's really great that we can hold those premiums flat and still maintain our fund balances. And then also along those lines, along with keeping them flat, offering additional benefits like Grow Well. And then we have TRIA Health is a program that we implemented, relatively low cost, but they are pharmacists that work with employee pharmacists and employee doctors. So if you are on certain medications or you are on a certain number of medications, these people reach out to you like asthma's one, I have asthma, that they would reach out and be like, hey, we see you're taking Singular and Advair and Prevental, like, can we talk to you about that? And they'll work with my doctor and my pharmacist to see if there's a need for all of those prescriptions, or, and also if there's generics to try on those as well. So that's a good program that is really increasing participation, the more that people become familiar with it. And then also our mental health resources are also dramatically increasing, and that is all through Grow Well now. And they're seeing, I think last month they had 48 mental health appointments. So I get a report every month, and just seeing the need for that and the fact that our people have somewhere to go is really, really nice. And then retirement options, supporting our employees in, for planning for the long term. Aside from CAPERS is a really good thing for tier 1 people, and it's kind of a struggle for tier 3 people. So really helping them. We do the employer match with the annuity. The board does the $100 match for certified and $50 for classified, and just really educating people that you can double your money by using that match. And that even like when you're young, a little bit at a time will add up dramatically. And so trying to show them scenarios to get them to invest in those annuities. Workforce and investment is both a people strategy and a student success strategy. So keeping the same people around obviously is better for our students. So the taxpayer impact. So this is where it really digs into the Code 99, the budget that you guys will all have the hearing on, the public hearing on the 27th. So the proposed fiscal year 27 mill levy that I built this budget around is 51 flat. The last 2 years, it was 51.418 last year, and before that is 51.071. So to the right, I kind of did a further look back. I just didn't put it back in the chart, but the highest that I went back during my time was we were at 52 mills in fiscal year 16. The lowest was actually a year that we missed the R&R deadline, and we were actually at 46. That was unintentional, but that was our lowest. And so overall, we've tried to stay right around that 48 to 51 mark year to year. So when Lewis, Hooper, and Dick reported in January, I don't know if you remember, it was a lot of your first meetings. So we fell the 5th lowest when they compared us to 16 districts of our size. Our mill levy was the 5th lowest. And then I equated that into a calculation for a homeowner with a $200,000 house. That's just over $1,000 per year, less than $84 a month to support the schools. So that's kind of how it equates for a taxpayer. Our assessed valuation, it's increasing slightly this year. The value of 1 mill is going up $484. And this is actually the smallest increase I could find since fiscal year 15. So we've seen some steady growth, and we did flatten out quite a bit this year. But from fiscal year 15 to fiscal year 27, our assessed valuation has grown over 349,000 or 349,000. So a lot of growth in Garden City, and it helps generate funds for the district just by providing more value for our mills. So fund balances, this is another thing for public transparency. People can look at our cash balances, and it may look like, oh, like we could be putting that, into staff and things. I'll be the first one that would want to put it into staff and salaries and benefits, but I'm also the first person that has to answer when we don't have money that we need for projects. So there's a balance. All of our cash balances, I feel, have intention. So I feel like we're in a good spot. A lot of our fund balances can only be spent on fund specific things. So for example, our virtual fund can only be spent on the virtual program. I think sometimes the public perception may be that it's like one big bucket of money, and it is not one big bucket of money. There's very defined things on how we generate it and how it can be spent. So making sure that we're abiding with the legal requirements with all of that, and then also planning for future investments. So along with the stability and long-term planning, we have over $456 million worth of property in our district. And so keeping fund balances to protect those assets. Our deductible on a wind and hail storm is $500,000. So just kind of like I said, public perception can be like, there's a lot of money there, but just without just trying to be transparent, like there is intent to all of these cash balances. 47% of our cash balances, unencumbered cash, is in capital outlay. Again, the intent there is we've been purposely building that up for KH. We didn't want to have to go to the taxpayers for a bond. So intentionally putting money in there. We set the cap for KH at no more than 19 million. So you can tell, or you can see that that balance is going to dramatically decrease once we start that KH project. So these 5 funds are the top balances. Our health reserve, again, is really good. We put no additional money. That fund was built up by employer and employee premiums. Bond and interest, again, another thing that's very, very specific on what you can spend it on, the interest and the principal payments. We make payments every March and every September. So the cash balances start to creep up, before those months, and then it'll drop down, and then we'll build it back up and it'll drop down. So at June 30, they were starting to build back up for our September payment here next month. And again, our bonds mature in 2034. And so something that the board will have to start thinking about within the next couple, 2-3 years is a lot of districts try to plan where a bond comes on as one rolls off in order to maintain the mill levy, rather than some feel like it might be harder to pass a bond if needed. If you let your bond and interest mill levy drop and then have to go back and increase it. So just something to be thinking about. Not super urgent, but it is something that our bond and interest people work with us and will help us. They give me figures. If you need a $54 million bond, if we start looking at that in 3 years, they can help plan ahead to where we stay flat. So just something in the back of your mind there. Contingency reserve is probably the closest thing to our savings account. We can only spend that money if you guys make a board action on it. I don't have the authority. Josh doesn't have the authority to spend any of that money. You guys are the only ones that can spend that. And then special education. This is the highest balance that we carry in any of our operating funds. And part of that is because special education is very expensive. If you get a student that has to be transported to Kansas City, you have to pay the mileage. You have to have the funds available to support those students. And another thing is something called the maintenance of effort. And that is something that we have to spend as much money on special education as we did the year before. And if you don't, you have to justify it. And sometimes there's very good justifications, like I replaced a 20-year teacher with a brand new teacher. You just have to go through the process of justifying that every year. But our local contribution for special education last year was $4.38 million. So I know you guys have heard everybody talk about special education isn't fully funded. That's what our district had to put in to keep our special education fund afloat. Let's see. So
Jessica?
Yep.
That's coming out of general funds and.
Correct. Yep. So that
could have been spent.
Yep, that money could have been spent on anything. When it comes out of the general fund, it's pretty wide open. So, yep. So budget priorities, what are we all working for? Student achievement obviously is our top priority. Workforce stability, which helps that student achievement, all while being fiscally responsible, and then also wanting community trust. So trying to be as transparent as we can be. Budgets are more than numbers. They're just a reflection of our priorities and our values. The proposed budget invests in students, it supports our employees, and it positions us for long-term success. So the proposed budget, before I show you the code 99, this is some things you'll see on it. And that kind of needs some explanation. So the maximum budget authority is 192 million. And then the net expenditure authority. So that would be if we spent every single penny in our district. Right below that, the net expenditure authority, that's actually how much we're legally able to spend next year because I didn't budget every single penny. So we can spend 148 million. I really, really hope we don't have to do that. And then 43 million is transfers to other funds. Some of that is required transfers. So we have required transfers out of general and LOB based on money that's generated. So we have to transfer all of like our virtual money, our sped money, our at-risk money. It all goes into general and then you have to transfer it out. So it shows up in those transfers. And then the amount of taxes to be levied this year, you'll see is just under 24 million. Last year, last year, 1.16 million. So we're going to levy over $1 million less than we did last year. So the down below, you'll see the tax rate, 51 flats proposed. The revenue neutral rate was a little bit over that, the 51.078, and then last year's actual at the 51.418. So the code 99 you'll see and act on at the end of the month is down 0.4 mils. Of those taxes of the 24 million taxes that are going to be levied, I broke it down a little bit. So LOB, we're going to generate 8.6 million, capital outlay 4 million. Bond and interest 2.9 million, and then general fund a little under 8.4 million. Our state aid percentage for LOB is 56%, 56.01, and then capital outlay and bond and interest are both at 58%. So I think one misconception is that if you levy 24 million, or let's take capital outlay, if I'm levying 4 million, the state aid is 58,000 or 58%. It's not 58% of that. You levy the taxes you want from your local people, and then the state aid becomes on top of that. So for example, capital outlay, I'm going to levy 4.012 million. 58% of that is what the state's going to put on top of that. So that's how you generate more funds. Here is, I tried to make it as oh, it's not in here. Oh, there it is. Okay, so we'll go to this one first. So here is the actual code 99. This is what will go in the paper. I tried to highlight those that I think what the public's going to look at the most, the mill rate and then the taxes levied. So on here, it ties back to that 23.933 million. And then where that blue arrow is, that's where it has that, and then the 51 mils flat. So this is what goes to the paper. We then, if I send it to the paper tomorrow, it gets published on Saturday. And then by law, we have to wait 10 days before we can have the budget hearing. So it's all kind of laid out just so if there's anything you guys need me to change or look at, any questions, just get with me after tonight. Otherwise, it will be sent to the Telegram tomorrow. So again, just a recap of the budget hearing is on August 27th here in the ESC at 5 o'clock. And then September 20th is when I have to have everything to the state, and then October 1st, everything to the county clerk. And that is that. So if I can answer any questions, I sure will.
Well, in my comment or my question about the 4 million that we're having to take out of general fund to put it in SPED was, we have to do what we have to do with the SPED, with those students. I mean, it's required and we need to do it, and we know we need to do it whether or not it's required. But the fact is that we're not getting fully funded. That $4 million that we're taking out of general fund could be used for other purposes if we were getting fully funded.
Yes.
And that is important. I think it's an important message to the feds and the state that they need to fund us.
I agree. Yeah, and do you know how much our SPED population has increased?
Yeah, so it's gone from somewhere around 11% prior to COVID, 12%. We're over 16, tipping close to 17% of our population. Building by building, you're gonna see drastic differences building by building. Some buildings have much higher SPED populations than other buildings just by the nature of the population that they serve. But district-wide, we're getting close to tipping over 17%.
And along with that is also the severity of the students that we're seeing, and the cost that, our highest need classroom, we have just as many adults as kids in there because they require that attention.
Yeah, we saw that when I was employed at SDSI, severity sometimes was. You had to deal with it. You couldn't shortchange it. You couldn't.
Right.
Not staff it. You had to.
Yeah, take care of it.
And we can offer a lot of services for our sped students that surrounding districts can't as well, so.
While that's a good thing, it's also problematic from the fact that we'll have outside district people wanting to transfer in just to get our sped services, but their sped funding doesn't cover the amount of sped services we're gonna offer. So we end up in the negative taking outside of district people. We end up in the negative by taking them, which is unfortunate because they do need the services.
In your presentation, you talked about we're getting $1,200 less per teacher.
Yes, and so
And that's-
$1,200 less per sped teacher, and then a quarter of that, so paras get 0.4 of whatever a teacher brings in, so 40% of that 28,000 is what we get for a para, and we have around 175 sped paras. So the $204,000 drop is just on teachers and paras.
One of the problematic things with the sped formula is it's a set dollar amount, and then they divide it out by the number of certified sped teachers statewide. So as we get more certified sped teachers in the state, the amount per teacher is actually declining.
Yeah, and we don't know what that amount is until, I don't think I knew until the very beginning of June what we were gonna actually get funded for fiscal year 26. So that 28,000 is just
It's a guesstimate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And last year, actually, we, mid-year, they increased what they thought we were gonna get. And then when we actually got it, it went down from their original projection. So
So there's not been any increase in that pot of money for those reimbursements. It's a set amount. And as those teachers go up or down, that changes per
Yeah,
teacher.
so next year, it's a good thing that we're getting more highly qualified sped teachers. That is a good thing. The problem, the downstream effect of that is, that means each one of those is worth less money in sped funding by the state.
I appreciate all your hard work and getting it all together, and that's a lot of hours for you and your team to make it happen. So I appreciate you looking at being conservative and finding ways to cut things and whatnot. So
and if any of you want more details that didn't have to sit in on the 2 hours, feel free to come by.
Or Jacob wants another refresher on it.
always needs a refresher.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thanks, Jessica.
Okay, moving on to item H, new business. H1, transportation and vehicle bids. Yeah, it says Shane, but I don't see Shane.
So are you doing transportation bids, Jeff?
I guess so.
And both of these items are the first read, but action is requested tonight. Is that correct?
Oh, yep. Okay, yeah, I thought he was gonna be here, but he may have got held up. Okay, so we put bids out for an 8-passenger van and also for a pickup, a 2,500 size pickup.
It's not a passenger van though. It's actually an SUV. It was supposed to be a Suburban. It's actually an Expedition that we got the bid for. It still holds 8
Yeah,
passengers. but Yeah, it's not a van. It's a SUV.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. It's not a
Okay,
van.
van, yes, okay. I was confused. Okay. So we sent bids out to Lewis, Burtis, and Brogdon. And we got bids back from Burtis and Lewis. And on both vehicles, Burtis came in the low bid. They, I think it is going to take a little bit longer to get those in, but Shane is not in dire need. The reason we're looking at the 8 passengers, we had a transmission go out on a Suburban, and the need for the pickup is to pull the football trailer, that it's not just football, but they use it for football equipment, they use it for FFA, things like that, but it is a trailer that we were pulling with an SUV. And maybe that contributed to the transmission, I don't know, but he just felt like it would be better to have a heavy duty pickup to pull that trailer. So that's what those are. He's asking for, action tonight just because those bids are only good for, 30 days from the day that they were due.
I'm assuming we have money set aside for this.
Yes, he actually, you'll only see him request one more thing this year. So when I worked with him to set his budget, it was for the SUV, the pickup, and then a used activity bus. So you'll see that coming later around, I think he's gonna try to get the specs out soon, so maybe September, October, and then he's cut off for the year.
One of you saw the truck, and I'm not advocating for you guys to spend money and change it all. But we are repurposing a trailer that could be used if we have a breakdown. I know we've had some incidents where vehicles have broke down. And like she was talking about, we've never had a heavier duty vehicle to go pick them up in, and that truck would serve that purpose too.
So we wouldn't have to tow them home.
Any other questions? Yeah.
I'll move to approve the bid for an 8-passenger, I'm gonna use vehicle instead of van. From Burtis Motor Company in the amount of $57,432.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to purchase an 8-passenger vehicle from Burtis Motors for the amount of $57,432. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Either one. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Pickup.
I move to approve the bid for a pickup from Burtis Motor Company in the amount of $61,629.
It's been moved and seconded to purchase a pickup from Burtis Motors in the amount of $61,629. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, moving to item H2, the Board of Education is asked to consider and approve a bid for generator replacement at Florence Wilson Elementary School, Cummins Selling Services in the amount of $34,650. First reading, Brandon Anderson, Director of Plant Facilities.
First agenda item for me tonight is the generator at Florence Wilson. This is a source well quote. The last couple of generators that we've got have been Cummins. They come with a 5-year warranty, and then they come and service them on an annual basis. So that's why we're recommending that we stay with that Cummins brand. For history's sake, it's a good recommendation that you rotate those generators out on a 20-year basis. This generator that we're replacing is a 2001 model. So we have $60,000 budgeted in the long-range plan. The quote is for $34,650. There's a 20-week lead time, so it'd be a while before they would come and install it, but it is an item that's in the long-range plan. Any questions?
So would they train our guys how to work on it?
Well, yes, and they also, that's part of our service agreement. They come.
Yeah, no, I see that, but after the 5 years.
Yes, or we would call them back in on major issues to work on and just have to pay for it at that point. Yes, sir.
It's quite a bit lower than was in the budget. Well,
Yeah, I like
that.
that problem. We
Yeah.
probably need to try to dial those in. And if we've had that same issue with a lot of the roof bids that we've talked about, and I've even talked with GMCN on some of those that, you know, and a lot of it was not necessarily in this case, but I know on the roof side, it was kind of just the cost of business there for a while, what we were seeing. So we'll try to dial those numbers in a little tighter. But it's nice to save money in terms of what you had budgeted. So,
And it is large enough to do what we need it to do, right?
yes, yeah. Any further questions on that item? Then there's no action needed tonight. It'll be on consent. If something comes up between now and then, feel free to holler at me. Ready to go to the next item?
Yes, sir. H3.
So the next item you have is an unbudgeted expense, and it's been a little bit of a headache. It's the tennis court, and there's a map in your packet. Currently, there was a couple of patches done about 3 years ago, I believe. And those patches didn't hold. We got the company, we tried to hold the company that put those patches in. They actually came back and re-repaired them, and it didn't hold again. We have had 2 or 3 vendors come out. Mammoth is the vendor that we have the most confidence in, that feels like, has given us the best advice on how they would recommend moving forward. They do feel like that there was an issue from the original installation with the little water seepage that was going on. They don't feel comfortable coming in and fixing the patches or reworking the patches, especially from another vendor that had done them. Their recommendation is that we go in with an actual, they'd come in, they'd remove it, and we would strip it, seal it, and then recoat it on those 2 tennis courts. Their quote for doing that on those 2 tennis courts alone is $49,750. Currently, those 2 courts they would not be able to do competition on those, and obviously we have tennis season coming up. We visited with the athletic director. They will be able to work around it this season. If we did them all at one time, obviously we'd be looking at a much larger. We're not experiencing issues on the other tennis courts like we are on this particular court. And this is their recommendation. Instead of patching, they feel like it would be better served for a longer term to go ahead and fix it and do it right. And it is a Greenbush quote, so we can use Mammoth on this.
I was about to ask, maybe you've explained this before, but when it says like this is a Greenbush Corporation project, can you just like explain to me what that means?
When we go through a buying cooperative, Greenbush, Sourcewell, there's a lot of others. Tips is one that we talked about. And when you go through that, that means they've already negotiated the actual best price for whether it be product to put down or whether it be a vehicle. That's a pre-negotiated state rate per se. And that so you know that you're getting assured that you're getting the best deal that you can.
And you don't have to go through the big, send out requests and all that.
One of the problems with the bid process in a situation like this, we went through the bid process to have their tennis courts redone. The bid process came back with the lowest bidder. The problem with coming back with the lowest bidder on some instances like this is the quality of work isn't necessarily.
Back at the table.
So you don't always want to go with the lowest bidder in some of these instances because you're.
And we've used Mammoth quite a bit and we've had good experience with them, so.
Questions tonight? Same case, I'll be available between now and then. If you have any questions, go through Josh and happy to answer.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thanks, Brandon.
Okay, item H4, the Board of Education is asked to consider and approve the following revised Board of Education policies. I'll let you name those off, Steve.
All right. In June, we went through or July, went through a lot of different board policies, but there were a couple that required us to do some work and to add some material in there before we could bring them to you. So that's a couple of them tonight. The first one of those is JBCB, and those are new regulations from the state of Kansas on foster kids. A lot of different definitions and practices that we have to update to be in compliance. Our old policy for enrolling and working with foster care students and agencies was less than a page long. And now this one is several pages of different things we have to do. For instance, we have to add something in there and hold what's called a best interest determination meeting. Every time a foster student enrolls in our district, we have to have a meeting with one of the foster care agencies, the sending school, representative from our district as the receiving school about what's the best placement possible and the best situation for these kids. And so this new policy kind of outlines what we're required to do in those cases. Another piece, and the reason that we delayed it, was we are required to have a policy in place and procedure for determining the best route to go with transportation of foster care students. So when a foster care student enrolls in our district, sometimes they've got special needs and need different types of transportation to their home, to the school that we determine to be their home school. Also, as a foster care student, they have some different rights. They can stay in that school even if their foster family moves to the boundaries of another school. They get to stay in that school if they wish to, rather than be bounced around. These kids have been bounced around enough. And so we then have to determine what's the best way to go about transporting these kids from their new address to that school. And so I was required to, as our district's representative for the foster care system, meet and converse with the head of our area DCF agencies and put together kind of a list of priorities that we would consider as far as placement, transportation, who would bear the cost if there were extra costs involved in transporting this student. So we kind of put together a laundry list of things that we would consider in each of those areas, and that transportation list of regulations and priorities is included in there too. So that's why it took a little bit of extra time to get it to you. But we did complete that work. And so we have that transportation plan and procedures as well as the new regulations for you. Any questions on that one from anybody? And then JGFGAA is an existing policy that was changed with really this year one sentence. Essentially, we were required to add in there. This year, we are required by state policy or state law to publish for all stakeholders where they can find all of our school districts' emergency medication policies and procedures. And this new policy says we're going to put them on our gckschools.com webpage under health services. So we just had to make that determination with our health services coordinator where she wanted to house those. And so that's the only change or addition with that stock supply of emergency medications policy. And then the last one, this one is a little bit of a change on policy you actually approved last month, the one on absences and excuses. There was a small piece there at the end, which was approved and then was pointed out to us as we started working with building leaders. There was actually in conflict with a lot of our handbooks and our policies regarding students with unexcused absences and providing them with makeup work for students with unexcused absences. A number of our buildings provide the makeup work for students with excused absences, but when the absence is unexcused, especially if a student's in truancy and some of those other situations, our buildings, their handbooks say that they don't provide makeup work for students with unexcused absences. And that has actually helped in the last couple of years, our buildings kind of work a little closer with parents as far as getting those absences excused. Finding out, where were you? Did your son or daughter just skip school and not show up? Or was the family on a trip or out of town? Was there a medical emergency? And it helps us kind of clear up and communicate with those folks. And our social workers have been a big part of that, working with families and trying to figure out, why weren't you here? Why weren't you in school? And so what we did was take out unexcused on makeup work, but then also Jennifer Cunningham, our district's counsel, recommended then putting in some disclaimers to make sure that we were in compliance with different legal protections for makeup work that students with 504 plans, IEPs, McKinney-Vento, homeless foster students, those kids have certain types of protections legally as far as their access to make up work for any kind of absences, depending on what's written in their plan and what their needs are. And so that's the last couple paragraphs of policy JVD is adding in and making sure that our board policy reflects those protections. That wasn't in there previously. We thought that was important. But then also the last statement on that policy, if an absence initially is recorded as unexcused and later reclassified as excused, the student will be afforded to make up opportunity applicable to an excused absence. So that kind of arms our teachers and our staff with the ability to call a parent and say, look, if we can get this changed, we can get that makeup work. And those kind of things and that reaching out to families, especially with these absences, has helped a building like Garden City High School move from 2 years ago, 29% of students being chronically absent, at least 10% of the year, where it's unverified, to this last year is 19%. They've cut that by 10 percentage points, which is huge for a 6A school in Kansas to have chronic absenteeism rate decrease that much. And a lot of it is due to, with the budget priorities and things that we talked about, a lot of that stuff is due to our emphasis on social workers and the social emotional kind of things that Jessica talked about. The fact that we've got social workers that can reach out to the families and kind of partner with them. And if a family's struggling, whether it's transportation or other things, we get a chance to work with them and get that kid in school, because if they're not in school, they can't learn. So that's those three policies. One was an adjustment to one that you had already approved, and the other two were ones that we had to do some work on before we could bring them to you. So, and it's first read on all of those things.
So just to clarify on the
Yeah.
JVD,
Okay.
we changed excused or unexcused and then,
Yeah.
and that was just based on what schools already had.
Yeah,
in
it was
their
based
handbooks.
on a lot of the procedures that we've been doing for a while as far as makeup work for unexcused. Yep. Yep, so our buildings reached out and said, hey, that's not really what we're doing here. So do we republish all of our handbooks, or do we adjust the board policy to reflect our practice? And we made the adjustment and then wanted to make sure we still kept in there the protections for all those different groups. Yep.
So it's what has already been happening.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome.
Good question. Any other? All right. Thanks. Yep.
Thanks, Steve.
Moving on to item H5, election of delegate and alternate delegate for the Kansas Association of School Board Delegate Assembly on Saturday, November 7th, 2026, as part of the KSB Annual Convention. Josh Cutman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, so every year we have to elect a delegate and an alternate delegate to represent our local board at the convention. So they'll go on Saturday, that individual will go on Saturday, and they'll kind of go over priorities for KSB, and then that delegate will vote, be our voting member at the conference that Saturday. So the board just needs to take action and nominate and vote a delegate and an alternate for that delegate. This year going, Mark is going to go, Nathan's going to go, Robin's going, and Katie are going to to the KSB conference this year. So last year Mark was our delegate and Nathan was our alternate. Basically because they were the only two that went last year. So they got it by default. But you guys just have to take action and make a nomination for an alternate and a delegate again this year. We probably need two motions, right, Jennifer?
It's set up to do it in one motion.
Okay, well, we can just do it in one motion. So you can just nominate a delegate and a alternate.
Want to be the.
Nathan, you wanna do the?
Yeah, I did it last year, but if you want to do it, we can do it.
I'm fine if you guys do it. I'm fine.
Katie?
I'll be the alternate. I don't know, or if you want to do it.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Or if you're being passive aggressive right now.
So
Mark and Katie?
I move to nominate Mark as the delegate and Katie as the alternate for the convention in November.
KSB's delegate assembly.
Jennifer? Okay,
Make that sound however it needs to sound.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved to second to appoint myself as the delegate and Katie as the alternate delegate to represent USD 457 at KSB's Delegate Assembly on November 7th, 2026 at the KSB Annual Convention. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Board open discussion. Rebecca, you're up first.
I mean, I would just say thank you for spending 2 hours with us this week, looking through the budget. You answered a lot of questions. It was very helpful to sit down and do that ahead of tonight. I also appreciate that now you have to kind of go through the building needs assessment. I know you said that's not your forte, but appreciate what you had to put in there. It is still, frustrating, or at least it should be an area that we need to continue focusing on is our assessment scores. We're still lagging behind the state average. I think that has to be number one priority, is getting test scores up, but glad to see that we use that to set our budget. So I do appreciate that. I appreciate the transparency that, we had interventions before and our test scores have actually gone up since we got rid of them, but if we're gonna bring them back in, which I think is a good idea, we rethink, and make it more intentional how we use those. So I think that would be the thing that I will take out of tonight's meeting, but appreciate the staffing too. That's good news that we have a more stable, workforce in our district. So.
Robin.
Yeah, I would like echo what Rebecca said. The presentations help us understand better the whole process. And, this is a big job sitting on this side while we still have our full-time jobs. And so it's nice to be able to absorb some of that information with all of us here. And I know that you guys, for the staffing side and the budget side, you put lots of hours in to do the best job you can, and we appreciate that. And hopefully people that are watching have a better understanding of what goes on and where we get those numbers. And I'm really pleased when people are complaining that their taxes went up, we can remind them that USD 457s went down $1 million for this year. So thank you for that.
Katie.
Yeah, I'm disappointed that I missed the presentation from Drew about staffing. So I might bother you to get that presentation at a later date, because that is important, because as we've talked about multiple times tonight, people are the most important part of our district. I really appreciate that in our building needs assessment that we're putting a lot of emphasis on our paras and our classified staff, because our schools don't run without them, and those paras are so important to have in the classroom supporting our teachers. Speaking as a teacher who had those paras, it makes a huge difference having qualified people in there and retaining them year over year. So I agree with that focus on really honing in on para retention and training.
Nathan.
Well, I want to say a huge welcome back to all of the staff and teachers and students as we prepare to start back to school this week. And a huge thank you to everyone who's been working all summer long to make things happen, the admin team here. And a lot of things are going on and getting ready for us to start the school year well. And so I appreciate that. And I look forward to all the great stuff that's ahead of us this year and hearing from the individual buildings on the great things that are going to be coming. And I'm just grateful that we're able to get those pairs in the kindergarten classrooms. It's a huge assistance to get them started right and setting us up for long-term success and making some of those changes and adjustments in the scores and whatnot. So appreciating that. We'll be looking for some crossing guards, I guess. So we'll be.
Talk to them on Sunday.
Bring it up on Sunday, Pastor.
Bring it up.
We'd love to visit
So we
with
can
them.
do. But it's interesting that there are lots of different aspects to the school district that maybe people just don't even think about that they even. So I just wanted to point that out again, bring that back up so we can talk about that. But you know, I love the fact that the school district is the foundation of the community and we are becoming greater and we're doing greater things fiscally as well as staffing wise and really setting up this community for a successful future. And so excited about that. Love the idea of efficiency in the budget, Jessica. So thank you for doing that. Very excited that we don't have to go with the revenue neutral rate again, and we can stick to that. So thank you for that. Love the policies that we have. Keep us. There's a lot there, a lot to go over, a lot to review, but definitely there's a lot of things that help us keep the kids safe and staff safe, and just everybody working smoothly. And I appreciate that. And so look forward to some other changes this year and great things that are happening. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, agree with, hey, Rebecca, we want to see the student assessment scores go up. I mean, it's something been on here on the board for almost 3 years now and really want to continue to have our focus on that and that we do that. Staffing update again, hey, after 3 years here, that's the best one we've had. And I really appreciate the work that Drew and staff are doing to do that. The budget presentation, Jessica, sitting there for 2 hours the other day was great. And then kind of knowing a little bit what to expect tonight and tying this back to the building assessment needs and what do we need. And hey, this assessment scores is one of those things. So I really appreciate what you're doing and your staff is doing. And I got to give a pat on the back to Josh and the entire leadership team. In 3 years on this board, I feel that this entire, hey, this building here is moving all in the same direction, all working together and all working toward the same goals. And the end is the students and what, hey, we want to graduate. This is why I want to see productive American citizens graduate from Garden State High School that either go to college, go to some sort of tech school, go straight to the workforce, but they're prepared for whatever direction that they decide they're going. That's what I want to see. And I think we're headed in that direction. This is like, to me, it's like the Titanic and redirecting it, avoiding the icebergs. It doesn't happen overnight is my point. And what we're doing, I think, is leading us in that right direction. So I appreciate what y'all are doing. And a welcome to all the staff. They're not here. Maybe somebody's watching, but I imagine they're at the school. Yeah.
Open houses.
Yes, open houses tonight, or they've been there and they're home now or wherever they went. And I appreciate all that's going on there. So thanks to everybody. Jacob.
Well, I mean, I think you guys did a really good job talking about everything. Thank you for the 2 hours. Got to really dig into the budget. I enjoyed that, learned quite a bit. The filling those positions, I think, will be big. To Becca's point, I think they will increase test scores to have extra pairs and extra teachers help. I think that's huge. And, there's no downside to that, I don't think. So leadership, I think you guys do a great job and happy to work with you guys. We drove by my kid's school today and they're excited and got home, shoot, 3 o'clock, they had their backpacks on, ready to go. He was about to go to school today. So I'm excited for school on Wednesday for them and all the kids and teachers. So let's just get going, yes.
Randy's not here, so Josh.
Just a couple things. One, tomorrow at Convocation, we're really excited. Jerry Brooks is going to be our speaker for Convocation, and he's kind of a rock star in the education world. So I think there's a lot of excitement, a lot of buzz going on. Drew invited, all of our retired teachers in the community to come, and I think we've got 34.
Over 50 now.
Oh, there were 50. Well, that's gone up just in the last day since I talked to Drew. So I'm really excited about that. I think that says a lot about the quality of PD that we're going to have tomorrow. So I think those of you that are coming, I think everybody coming except for Jacob tomorrow, correct?
Yeah.
So it's going to be really exciting. But I would also say that doesn't happen overnight. There was a lot of work that's gone on the entire summer to get organized for tomorrow. Drew's put in a lot of hours. Steve and Dr. Duncan and Heather have put in a lot of hours to get everything organized for tomorrow, to make that all come off and to make it something that's quality and going to be beneficial to our staff. And so I thank all of you for your work that you've done. I think I'm really excited for tomorrow. I think it's going to be a great day. Kind of the state assessments conversation that we've had, that's been a conversation. I swear if I talk to Drew about state assessments one more time, I'm gonna lose my mind because we go back and forth all the time. That's the great thing about my leadership team is we all see things from a completely different perspective. And so we talk about this. This isn't something that we've just kind of blown off. While state assessments aren't the only thing that's going to determine success for students, it's the best measuring stick that we have right now to kind of see a growth from year to year. And we do have to get better. I think we've identified that. That's why we've done a lot of the things we've done. Getting the pairs, I think, in kindergarten is going to help with that. I think working with Phillips Fundamental Learning Center like we're doing and revamping what our intervention program is going to look like. Those are all things that I believe are going to move the needle more than we've been able to move the needle in the past. One thing that I would caution the board on is don't expect big results overnight. Everything that I've read and researched when we talk about turnaround and stuff like that, it usually takes 2 to 3 years of implementation before you see big results. With that said, I think the work that we've done with TNTP has had some positive outcomes, and I think AP Hubert's beginning to see that. And so I'm really excited for what's in store for the district in the next few years. This is a really good time as we have the conversations about how to improve state assessments and how to improve a lot of those things. We're gonna look at redoing our strategic plan this year for the next 5 years. And so this is a really good time to really dig into that and start identifying what we think is going to move the district forward for the next 5 years. And so a lot of exciting things that are happening. And this is one of my favorite times of the year. I mean, it's always stressful and there's always speed bumps at the start of every year. This will be year number 30, my first day of school, my 30th first day of school. But I guarantee you that they've all been exciting, but there's always a speed bump every year, and I'm sure we'll have them. But we also have really quality people in place to make sure that we work through those speed bumps. So that's all I got.
Item J, next board meeting. Next regular meeting of the Board of Education will take place on Thursday, August 27th, 2026 at 5 p.m. for a budget hearing, followed by another regular meeting at 5:05 p.m. in the board meeting room at the Educational Support Center, 1205 Fleming Street, Garden City, Kansas. Entertain a motion for adjournment. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Meeting's adjourned.